Welcome to another edition of Through My Lens. I'm your host, Karen Jackson, and I have a special guest here. I call her the Reverend Dr. Gilmore. And good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Hanging in there during
All right. All right.
all of this stuff we're dealing with. We're just hanging in there.
Amen. Amen.
But I am so excited about this special series. Usually I bring different guests on to talk about some issue, but today we're going to be talking about some issue that's personal to me, and I know it's personal to you as well. And that is the importance of cancer research
Mhm.
and um, cancer awareness in general. And I know that there are so many stories. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this special Sheroes series is because I think it's so important for us when you hear the word cancer, people immediately think it's a death sentence.
Mhm.
And certainly, I don't want to make light of it is a serious situation, but there's so many resources and things that can be done so that it's not a death sentence. And I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight some of the women who have not just survived cancer, but are thriving. And so,
Amen.
amen. So I thank you so much for being a part of this series. And tell us, why did you want to participate?
I believe because as an African American woman, and let me say this, an African American handicap or medically fragile, however you want to put it, paraplegic, it's important to make women aware that there is one, like you said, that cancer is not a death sentence and that it can affect our lives no matter how young or how old we are. And it actually affects the lives of those of us who are handicapped in a number that is not all the time recognized. So bringing awareness to the situation for me is paramount.
Absolutely. And talk a little bit about, I guess I never really thought about that. I mean, when you're talking about having a disability and how that impacts your care, everything, actually.
Mhm. Well, one of the things I would say is because you don't know, since you're dealing with so many other things about your body, you don't really think about, particularly in my instance, breast cancer per se, because you're thinking about the other things that's always going on with you. So that's not even a part of your radar to think about
Mm.
prevention, to think about intervention. You're not thinking about any of those things. But because of what I later found out through research and through some things, because I am in a wheelchair, and one of the things that did not happen for me is I didn't have any children, so that puts me at a higher risk because then
Mm.
the hormones didn't do what they do to release some of the hormones. And
Mm.
so it put me in a category that made me a higher risk
Mm.
candidate.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your experience with breast cancer and your experience. Well, first of all, congratulations, 20-year survivor. So
20-year survivor. Yes.
that's just awesome. And I think that's so important for us to say because you can survive and thrive. And so tell us a little bit about your diagnosis and how did you find out?
Well, uh, first of all, let me say I had a really good doctor who, for whatever reason, followed the guidelines of getting a baseline.
Mm.
Uh, at 35, I had a baseline taken.
Oh, wow.
And so then when my first diagnosis came, I was 40 years old when you're supposed to get your first mammogram. So I'm getting my first mammogram at 40, and they noticed a very small lump on my breast, smaller than the top of a pencil eraser. So I did the usual and going in and having the biopsy, and anybody who's done that, all of that is very frightening. it leaves you in a place of I don't know what's going on, especially when you first get it and they're saying it may not be uh, full blown cancer. It may be this, it may be that. It may be malignant. It may not be. It may be benign. It may not. When they're throwing all the medical terms at you, it's very discerning.
Hmm.
But once you go through it and you get in there and you talk to some people, you kind of calm down. So I had the biopsy. The biopsy came back with me having cancer. Now the good thing about my cancer at that time is that it was localized, which means it didn't spread to any other part of my body. I was in the very early stages of it, again because they caught it very early. So at that time, all I had to do was to have a lumpectomy. I did the lumpectomy, I did the radiation, and I kind of went on about my life as usual. Now, the thing that's unusual was that they talk about survival rate. And if you're 5 year clean, you have a better chance of surviving. They give you all these numbers and statistics. Well, I will say that my cancer actually came back 5 years to the date we discovered it again, 5 years to the date of the first time.
Wow.
Again, having a mammogram was important because I was having one every year like I was supposed to. And again, on the 5th year, there we are again with cancer of the breast. So now we have more decisions to make
Hmm.
because are we going to decide? Again, they did the biopsy, they did all the things. Again, I'm discerned, and it's a lot going on in my head. So now they place something before me, another decision. Do you want to have another lumpectomy and more radiation and go through some things? Or do you want to have a mastectomy? Now, let me tell you why. One of the things that they would not do with me, because I am a paraplegic, is they would not do a whole lot of trials. So I didn't do any of the trials and all of the medications that were out there that people normally could take. I wasn't privy to those medicines because they cause side effects that a paraplegic shouldn't have. Because there are some things you need to be able to do. You need to be able to walk to make the stuff do what it needs to do. You need to be able to move around. So those were some things that I could not do. So that's why we went straight to the mastectomy part, because there were some medicines and some things that I just would have caused me more harm than they would have caused me done me any good. So then I had to decide on, are we going to do the lumpectomy and radiation and part chance every 5 years go through this? Or are we going to vie for, because, the mastectomy, get rid of it, and then the prognosis is better that you may not get it again. Not saying it's guaranteed, but
Okay.
that you may not get it again. It was a difficult decision. Called in my at that time what I called the YAC, talked to my mother about it, talked to YAC Youth Activities Committee members, talked to my pastor, and had to get some clarity and some thought, prayed much about it. And the thought that got me to the point I needed to be to was I really wanted to continue on, like you're saying, to thrive. I wanted to continue on to be able to do work and to do ministry and do things. So I was like, I think I'm going to opt for the mastectomy so that this can be behind me and it won't reoccur for me every 5 years. So, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. Well, and I wanted to just talk about a couple of things you mentioned. One of the things you mentioned was that you had gotten a baseline at 35.
Mhm.
Was there family history? As there was something that actually, made your doctor want to do that?
I am thinking because I'm a paraplegic and because I had been one since
Okay.
the age of 14. I'm thinking, I never asked. I just followed his guidelines. And at that time, you're not asking a whole bunch of questions. You just, your physician says, now we know to ask a whole lot more questions. But at
Absolutely.
that time, I didn't ask that question. It was what needed to be done. He said it was what needs to be done. So I had it done. And I'm grateful, actually, that he did do it. Very grateful.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And it sounds like the early detection and your mammograms, doing those on a regular basis, really helped you to maybe spot the second case of breast cancer. About the importance of mammograms in this whole process.
And mammograms are very important because they detect things that you can't detect just by feeling. Now, imagine that it's smaller than the top of a pencil eraser. You won't be able to feel that at all. You have to have some other professional, let's say that, checking on you and your mammogram to see that there's something else going on you and watching what your body does and those kind of things as well. But for me, early detection and having that mammogram, and even now having the mammogram, is very important. I'm a little behind right now, but I'm getting ready to get back on it since they opened everything back up. But it's important because it allows them to see something that's smaller than can be detected normally.
Hmm. And I
Hmm.
think it's important, um, to be able, like you said, to have a baseline so they know if there's any changes in between your testing.
It is important, and it's important to, I have nieces, and they all know that they have to get tested early.
Hmm.
And after, my sisters know that they have to continue to be tested. So everybody knows now that it's important for you to be tested. And I believe when once your doctor finds out that you have it in your family, they will automatically do that baseline or make sure that you have it at your 40th year. They will
Absolutely.
definitely make sure if you are a
So
good doctor.
yes, yes, and I think more importantly too, technology has changed as well in
Yeah.
terms of the types of treatments and things that people are able to do to help minimize the growing cases of cancer.
Yes. And I know a lot of women say it hurts to have it done. It is not the most comfortable thing in the world. I
Absolutely.
will attest to that. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But when I think about what it does to save lives, as opposed to the 2 minutes of discomfort, I think
Absolutely.
I can deal with the discomfort. And imagine, if you will, doing it in a wheelchair. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it's not. They have to really. You have to be a contortionist to
Mm.
kind of make sure that your body does what they want it to do. Sometimes you get good technicians, sometimes you don't. So you just have to talk to yourself and say to yourself, "This is really what I need to thrive and survive."
So tell me, I know when you may have gotten your first diagnosis, I'm sure fear had to play a role in there, uncertainty of the unknowns. Uh, what helped you get through that?
Oh my goodness. I believe that one of the top priorities for me was definitely God, and having a faith that allows me to know that I can make it through anything. Obviously, that's important. But beyond that, my family, uh, my mother was a very strong woman, and she never showed an ounce of concern. Even if she was concerned, she didn't show concern in the sense that it would make me be frazzled.
Okay.
Her thing was, we're going to make it through this. All right. And so, mother, God, my mother, my family, and there was a group of women who I hung out with at the time who were the youth activities committee. And one of the things that they did was they prayed for me, and they worked with me and they were concerned about me. And so, let me say this, how I know the greatest concern they showed for me was this. My first bout, they took care of me and made sure I had everything that I need. And that's not to say that other people did not, because they did. Okay. I had a lot of support during that time because I was in the church. So a lot of people in the church were supporting me at that time.
Okay.
But my second bout, most people probably didn't know my second bout. My second bout, their concern came through their children because then they couldn't come and help me and do what need to be done, but they sent their children. to come and help me to get things done. So having a great support system, for me it was God, it was my mother, it was my family, it was the youth activities committee, it was church, it was just people that I knew in general who were concerned about me.
Mhm.
That's important to have people around you who are concerned about you because they will uplift you, they will pray with you, they will talk to you, they will sing you inspirational books and sayings and just keep you lifted at that time. So much so that you're not really thinking all the time about what your current status is.
Mm.
Isn't that something?
Isn't it is? It
Yes,
really
yes.
is.
When you have that great support, it allows you to not think in the moment, oh, woe is me, but oh, I'm about to get out of this because I got all these great people around me pushing me towards that.
And that's so important no matter what we go through. I think we all have seen during the our trials over the last few months,
Hmm.
being able to come together and having that support system, it
Yes,
just means so much.
yes,
Helps to
yes.
keep that hope alive.
That is the key in keeping hope alive. Amen. Amen.
So
Yes.
tell me, what piece of advice would you give a woman who may have just gotten a diagnosis? Maybe she's on her way to get her first mammogram. And I know for me myself, my mom had her bout. So I was, extremely nervous and uncertain about, what that result of that test would meet, what would it say. But what would you say to women who are getting ready to go through that or have already gotten their diagnosis?
The very first thing I would say is I always say this that it's not a death sentence. Don't even think of it in that terms and in that way. There are so many women and men who have survived. There's just a lot. It's an early detection means that 90% of you are going to survive. If you know what I'm saying, if you catch it in the early stages, there's just more opportunity to get it. So first of all, I would say it's not a death sentence. Don't go in thinking like that. Oh, I got cancer and I'm about to die. Don't go in thinking like that. Second, I would say trust your physician and yourself as you are talking to yourself and talking to your physician. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to research it yourself, to look for some things yourself, and to be knowledgeable about what you are going through or about to go through. I would say that. And thirdly, I would say for me, prayer and calming yourself is key to
Mhm.
not getting all frustrated and all bent out of shape and agitating, because those things agitate our body more and agitating what's going on in our bodies. So those would be my three things. It's not a
Oh,
death sentence. Talk to your doctor, trust your doctor, and pray, meditate, calm yourself down.
absolutely. Has there been certain things you've had to do differently, diet, exercise, things like that, to keep
Yes,
you in this surviving, thriving?
most definitely. Uh, Eating more fruits and vegetables is key. I know we hear that all the time, but I'm telling you, it's key. Taking some things out of my diet. I don't do a whole lot of, I've gotten worse since we've been in this pandemic, but I don't do a whole lot of fried food.
Mhm.
I try to eat healthier than not healthy, and exercising as much as you can and doing what you can do. Everybody doesn't have to do the Pella and everybody doesn't have to do the other things that are advertised, but finding the thing that works for you as exercise is so important, and not thinking that the exercise is going to cause you to just lose weight, but it just causes your body to do what your body was meant to do, and that's to work properly, to get things flowing and working properly. So yes, I definitely had to exercise, definitely had to change my diet. You can't eat everything you want to when you want to eat it. Now, see, my fetish, two things I loved: chocolate
Mm,
and potato chips.
mm.
And both of those things I had to cut back considerably on because they are not good for a woman with the diagnosis of breast cancer. So, yes, cutting back.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about. I know that you do a variety of different programs and things to help continue to bring awareness to the importance of early detection and breast cancer throughout the year. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm always willing to talk to be a guest speaker for anyone who'd like to encourage women in the area of breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. One of the best jobs that I ever had was being an educational specialist for Premier Health at that time. And talking to women, African American women specifically at that time, about breast cancer. Because again, that was an underserved population. So that was the best job that I loved that job. Just going to churches, going into community centers, talking to women, going into women's homes and talking to them about the importance of mammograms and getting yourself checked. One of the things, since I no longer do that, one of the things that I started last year, which I'm so excited about, is that I do a series, I guess, a program called Preaching for the Cure. And in Preaching for the Cure, that's held in October, the last Sunday in the month. And we bring in, we invite breast cancer survivors, and there's an opportunity for them to give their testimony, whoever would like to. And there is also some preaching that encourages, and there's some musical guests that encourage as well. And the money that's raised is used, so a portion of the money is used to give back to breast cancer awareness. So we gave the money this year to Sisters Supporting Sisters. So it just depends on what the need is at the time and how we can support women in supporting other women in the whole fight against breast cancer. And I know there's some other cancers out there as well. But my experience is with breast cancer. My mother's was with lymphoma. So we are very vigilant about, finding the cure, fighting for the cure, and in my case, preaching for the cure.
All right. So if someone wanted to find out more information about Preaching for the Cure, how could they do that?
They could contact me through my email address. Would you like for me to give that now?
Well, we'll put that in the comments
Okay.
for the
All
video.
right. Yes. So they can contact me through my email, and we will definitely. We're hoping to expand the program and we'll see with what's going on. We don't know yet, but
Absolutely.
we'll see how it's going to play out and what we're going to do. But there's some other things that we want to work on to improve the program and to make it continue to be an annual event. I didn't say it's held at Zion Baptist Church, and I think I said the last Sunday in October is the date. Yes.
Okay, so we will definitely stay connected so we can share that information with the community. We Do you have any final words to say?
Just final words. Early detection, so important. Please, ladies, get your mammogram and allow the doctors and people to do what needs to be done in your best interest. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And we really appreciate that information because I think it's important, which is why I am happy to be an ambassador this year for the Research Hers program, because it's not just about empowering women to get the testing and get the pre-screenings that they need to. It's also important. This is an effort to recognize the women researchers who are on the battlefield searching for a cure and a world where there is no cancer. So,
amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And
So
that's important. Research is important to be able to deal with it. And let me say this: had it not been for research, they wouldn't have known that there are certain medicines I should not take.
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Although they're working for other people, they would not have worked for me. So research is important.
It is.
Amen.
It
Yes.
really is. And that,
Yes.
I mean, we could look at the fact of what we're dealing with the pandemic. I mean, research is critical to us
Mhm.
finding the medicines, the services that work best for different cases because everyone's case is different.
Right. Amen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Denise, for coming to be a part of our Shero series. And we just commend you for all the work you're doing in the community. And we just encourage you to continue to keep thriving.
Amen. And thank you for having me. And God bless you for the work that you are doing as well and bringing awareness to the issue that is so profoundly affecting women and men at this time. Amen.
Absolutely. And
Amen.
so throughout the month, we'll ask you to stay tuned because we may bring you back for a panel. But throughout the month of June, we're going to be bringing women survivors,
Hmm.
men as well. If
Okay.
there's any men out there would love to share their story, please contact me, and we'd love to make you a part of this series because it is about education and awareness. So we thank you
Amen.
so much. God
Thank
bless
you.
you, and God keep you.
Amen.
And
God
we'll
bless you.